Whipple Family Misadventures, Book 7, Mischief in Their Eyes, Chapter 11. Shadow knew the moment he reappeared from teleporting that it had been a massive mistake to do that. The exhaustion was worse. His energy levels lowered, depleted from everything that had happened in the last 30 minutes. A heavy weariness, like a blanket, had been tossed over him. It took all his concentration to put one foot in front of the other without tripping over them. He was in the stairwell of the hotel and just had to get himself upstairs, a task that seemed nearly impossible, especially with trying to stay away from any strange humans. Behind him, there were footsteps approaching, and he didn't even care to make an even attempt to hide. Fighting the urge to just lie down on the ground and sleep there, two hands grabbed him from behind and lifted him clean off of his feet. Somehow, it turned out to be Tom.
Shadow! Wait, where's Sonic and Silver? What are you doing alone? What happened?
Shadow's legs pinwheeled half-heartedly, his feet dangling in the air. He really wanted to ask to be put down, but to his dismay, his words hadn't returned yet. The stress of the situation for everything had ripped them away, and he still couldn't say anything. The worst part was that he even knew what had happened, even more so that he needed to tell Tom where the other two hedgehogs were. It was important. They were in danger and desperately needed help, but he couldn't make himself say a single word. The frustration at the situation was horrible. He needed to be able to talk, and yet he physically couldn't. Somehow, Tom didn't seem upset when he didn't say anything.
Okay, let's go back up to the room. We can talk there. Your dad can join us there,
he said, quickly doing something with his phone, and then carried him back to his hotel room. On one hand, being carried around like he was a baby who couldn't even walk, especially when he didn't even want to be helped, made Shadow feel even crankier. On the other hand, he did not have to climb several flights of stairs while exhausted was something. But he knew a massive crash was coming at any time now and desperately wanted to get somewhere safe for it. Also, hoping that somewhere a bit more private would help him be able to talk again before it happened. As soon as the two of them were back in Tom's hotel room, he had shut the door. The man set him down and crouched down in front of him.
How did you get separated from Sonic and Silver? Are they alright? I need you to tell me where they are. This is important.
The dark hedgehog stared back at him helplessly. If he had been able to talk, he would have been already. He knew what was going on. He knew better than anyone that he alone had the information. The aggravation from knowing he had the lone potential to help his friends, but was physically unable to, and then it would be all his fault if something terrible happened to them. Reaching up, Shadow gripped a handful of his quills and imagined yanking them all out as hard as he could, in an attempt to make the horrible feelings that felt too big for his brain to go away.
Hey!
Tom said hurriedly. He attempted to physically reach out, but Shadow jerked away from him, not wanting any contact with anyone at this moment.
You need to breathe, okay?
Remembering to breathe was the farthest thing from his mind. Shadow just wanted to do the one thing that he absolutely needed to do, which was to help his brother and friend, and it was making his mind feel like it was going to eat itself because he couldn't say anything. Tom waved his hand in front of his face, holding his phone in the other hand.
Shadow, look at me. Deep breath. Right now. I'll even do one. It's going to be alright. We're going to be just fine, but you need to breathe.
A single furious tear escaped and ran down his muzzle. Horrified, Shadow lifted his hands to hide it, trying to make that go away. He didn't want to be crying. Most of all, he didn't want to feel this way. He just wanted it to stop. The angrier he got, not being able to speak only seemed to make it worse.
It's okay. That's fine. Just take a deep breath with me.
Slowly, with intense labor, Shadow slowly dragged oxygen into his lungs and exhaled.
Perfect. Do it again.
When this entire situation was over and no one was in danger, Shadow thought he would have to ask how both Tom and his dad automatically knew to do this when someone was deeply upset. Was it something they had learned to do, or was it something that adults just knew? Miserably, he lowered his hands, meeting Tom's gaze. He had fully expected Tom to just leave when he realized he wouldn't be able to talk. The man didn't have any reason to stay and help him. He wasn't his son.
That's good. Keep doing that. You're doing really good.
Sniffling, Shadow swiped at his nose, feeling the tiny remnants of any energy he had left slowly leaking out with those tears. It wasn't the late afternoon yet, and he still felt like he had been hit by a bus. All those terrible emotions that seemed to leach energy from his system. Tom was nodding his approval.
Good. Do you want a hug?
A hard shake of his head. He might have known Tom a bit and knew he had good intentions, but it didn't mean he wanted that.
That's fine. Do you know where Sonic and Silver are?
Without hesitation, Shadow nodded.
Okay, another deep breath. Good, good. Are they still in the hotel? Can you tell me where they are?
A wave of guilt crashed over him, and he nodded and then shook his head again. He wanted to tell him more than anything. He knew how important it was, but he just couldn't. With one shaking head, he reached up and pawed at his throat, hoping the man understood what that meant. After a moment, he pointed at the floor, trying to tell him they were downstairs. Frowning, Tom studied him for a moment.
Are you physically hurt?
Another quick shake of his head, and he glanced towards the bed, even though it was in Tom's room, wondering how much longer he'd physically be able to stay on his feet. Every minute, the weight of exhaustion seemed to get heavier. There was a knock at the door, and Tom opened it, and there was his dad. Soundlessly, Shadow stumbled toward him, letting himself be scooped up, while he shoved his face into his dad's shoulder. Wade was walking around the grounds of the hotel, just in case any of the boys had somehow found their way outside, quietly calling out for them when he got a text from Tom saying that he had found Shadow. Less than 2 minutes later, he got another text telling him to hurry, as something was wrong. He had been waiting for the elevator, but instead took the stairs, 2 at a time, panting by the time he reached the 4th floor. Tom hadn't given any details, and his mind was brimming with ideas of what was wrong.
What happened?
He asked as soon as he got there, finding Shadow in clear distress while Tom was attempting to comfort him, and Silver and Sonic were still missing. That alone was terrifying. As usual, the three of them stuck together like glue. He couldn't imagine the circumstances that could have forced them to split up. Tom stood up, shrugging helplessly.
I have no idea. He didn't want to talk to me.
Glancing down at his son, Wade didn't know what to do. The other two were still out there, and he could only imagine what could have happened to upset Shadow that much. But he also didn't want to leave him alone at a time like this. It was horrible, being forced to choose between which son would need his help when both of them needed him. Tom headed for the door, a grim look on his face.
I'll keep looking for them.
He promised, and then disappeared into the hallway. After he took Shadow back to his own hotel room, Wade stared down at him, curled up in his lap. His eyes had drifted closed, nearly limp against him, one arm wrapping around his bicep. If Wade didn't know better, he looked exhausted, completely and utterly spent.
What happened?
He repeated, gently smoothing back his quills. The dark hedgehog in his arms didn't say anything, and then Wade realized it was because he had fallen asleep. Standing up, Wade tried to untangle himself and put his son into bed, but found it too difficult without waking him up, and instead sat on the bed and continued to hold him. Wade can only hope that Tom found the other two, and quickly.
You really are hedgehogs!
Yeah, I'm Sonic and this is Silver.
Sonic said excitedly. Silver couldn't help but notice how his friend struck a pose and stuck out his chest, hands on his hips.
We're cousins, kinda, and I have a brother named Shadow, but he's not here.
I'm Amy Rose. Wow, I never seen any other hedgehogs on this planet before.
She looked both of them up and down. Sonic nodded.
Yeah, there's not a lot of us. How long have you been here?
In this hotel or on this planet?
In this hotel?
A while. I've had a lot happen, trying to stay away from mean humans. At least until that man grabbed me. You said your dads are here, right? Could I come with you? At least for a little while? I tried to get away on my own, but that man is really awful. And I do not want to go to Seattle.
Right away, Silver nodded. He didn't think his dad or Tom would mind at all if they brought her back with them, especially because of the mean, creepy guy. Plus, if she came with them, there might be less of a chance that the adults would be upset with them or how they left and didn't do what they were supposed to do. It was proof that they had a good reason.
My dad and his dad are really nice.
Amy looked around.
How are we getting out of here?
Okay.
Sonic clapped his hands together.
Have you ever bought anyone? Even just a little bit?
No, not really. I have a hammer, but that guy took it away from me when I tried using it. Not sure where it is now, and I tried to run away from him, but then he caught me again.
The blue hedgehog glanced towards Silver.
Have you fought anyone?
I threw someone at a wall once, but besides that, not really.
You did?
Yep.
Cool.
So, no fighting experience. That's okay. I have plenty. I've done it a lot. Well, maybe not a lot, but I've done it before. I've got this. I can get us out. We'll be okay. This guy's got it. I took out a crazy man who had flying eggs from the government who was trying to kill me.
Amy slowly looked towards Silver as if she was trying to figure out if what he was saying was correct or not.
Oh, I wasn't there.
Sometimes he really wanted Tom to tell the entire story to see how much of what Sonic was saying was true. He knew some parts were definitely real, but some also sounded fake and exaggerated. The pink hedgehog looked back at Sonic.
Why were you fighting a man with flying eggs?
Because I'm a superhero with my very own nemesis. I can run extremely fast and I'm super cool and all around awesome.
And I have psychokinesis. I can move things with my mind.
Silver picked up a pen from the floor and letting it hover in front of his face to demonstrate for her before he dropped it. Amy's expression lit up.
Wow, that's incredible.
Uh-oh, there's a little problem with us getting out of here. We have hoodies to hide with, but she doesn't. And since she's coming with us, we can't be seen by any of the people out there, and we had to get past the yelling man.
Glancing towards the door, Silver immediately knew his friend had a point. If they had been just them, it would have been very easy to get out of this room and make a break for the stairs, hoping the guy wouldn't chase them. And even if he did, Sonic was faster. They could get away or hide if needed. But now, they had Amy as well.
She could do what I did yesterday. I used a towel to hide my quills and tail after Shadow took my hoodie.
You're wearing those to hide?
From humans who don't already know about us, yes.
Oh, right. But I still need my hammer before we leave. It's really important to me.
So we get her a towel? I don't see anything she could use.
Silver said as he didn't have any other ideas. He was pretty sure they could handle that man if needed. But what if he had friends? And then, even after that, they could not be seen by other people, and they had to get back to their dads. Shutting his eyes, Sonic started to pace rapidly.
Okay. Let me think.
Amy jumped up to grab the doorknob and pulled the door open.
Hammer first!
She shrieked, charging out of the side room and back into the main one without them.
Amy!
Horrified, the two of them chased after her. Outside in the main room, by some miracle, there weren't any humans, at least for the moment. The massive clutter of the room sat quiet, as if it was waiting for something to happen. Sonic came screeching to a stop to avoid smashing into a pile of boxes.
Can't you get a new hammer?
No, I need it. Then we'll go. Besides, I'll be able to help you guys if I have it.
Help? Help how?
Help get out of here, especially against him. But first, help me find it. It's big and red.
She climbed up on a chair to survey the room. Shrugging, Silver wasn't sure what else to do. Carefully, he hovered into the air and surveyed the room, seeing a lot of interesting items. Some he could name and others he couldn't, but didn't see any hammers, red or otherwise. All of them looked expensive, the type of items that adults wouldn't have wanted a bunch of kids to touch or play with.
Got it!
Amy suddenly yelled and heaved a massive hammer up above her head, one that was nearly as big as she was. Both boys stared at it in fascination.
I see why you took it away.
Sonic finally said, sounding impressed as she swung it back and forth.
Hi!
The three hedgehogs turned as a massive man with a familiar voice and rusted color hair came into the room. His eyes narrowed with anger when he saw them. A woman in all pink was behind him.
I didn't say you brats could come out yet.
We're not going with you!
Still hovering in the air, he glanced around, looking for anything he could use as a weapon, and to his delight, found several heavy items. The man smirked, clearly the type of person who was used to getting his own way at all times.
I also don't remember asking your opinion.